I'm able to give fully to the story, but I do so in a very interesting way, completely wrapped up in fiction. And some people call it a talent. I'm just very thankful I have the gift to do so. And I think because I have the ability to take whatever is going on and wrap it in fiction with compelling stories, compelling characters, that is what allows me to not hold back and give my all whenever I'm writing.
Mhm. Power Ace Radio. Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of PAR Real Talk. Welcome to Power Ace Radio. My name is Pali. I'll be the host of the show, and I have an incredible guest for you today. If I could get my guest to please tell us your name, tell us where you're from, and tell us what you do, please.
Absolutely. My name is Alicia Rice. I am from St. Louis, Missouri, but I call Lawrenceville, Georgia home. By day, I'm an HR professional, but my true passion is being an author.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. I like that summary. And you know, you started writing at the age of 8.
Yes.
Um, what sparked up your love for storytelling?
That is a wonderful question. So, when I was younger, my grandmother would read the Bible to me. And early as I can remember, I've always had questions and just been curious. And she bought me my first poetry book. And I read a poem by Maya Angelou, and that's really sparked like, oh, she's very wonderful and empowering. And I just love how Dr. Maya Angelou always just was great with words and how she could just put her thoughts and her emotions and her passion on paper. And even at a young age, I was curious if I could do the same thing. So my grandmother bought me my first journal, and I wrote my first poem. Later on, she bought me a typewriter, and I started typing poems. And there was a point in my life where I was going through some things and just felt like I couldn't really express them the way I wanted to. And so, to deal with my grief and my pain at the time, I wrote my very first novel, which is called Fatal Marriage.
Mm, mm. Wow, wow, wow. Oh, I like the way you left it there because that is it's a great summary that you brought to that page. Because now I was going through your different projects, and yes, that was one that kind of stuck to me, like that stood out really. There's Fatal Marriage, and you you have some which are like very poetic. So there's one that says my poem, or my poet's soul,
Yes.
um, and Diaries of a Dead Woman.
Yes.
so, so these are kind of life. It sounds very life experience, like movie, like as I'm looking through the different titles and reading about them. So, what brings about all this inspiration to you writing all these great novels?
Oh, that is another great question. I would say my younger self, my writing was pure emotion. Like, for example, with Fatal Marriage, fun fact, I completed that novel at the age of 16. Diaries of a Dead Woman, I completed that novel at the age of 17. And of course, I didn't publish it too much later. But there was always just something interesting going on in my life. With Fatal Marriage, for example, I was in my first interracial relationship, my first boyfriend, I would consider it. And it was young love, right? But, I experienced, well, we both experienced, egregious racism and non acceptance, of the relationship. And the way that I coped was to write Diaries of a Dead Woman. In my next, what I would consider to be young love relationship. Um, I dated someone who experienced molestation. And one day he opened up to me about it. And, I actually was able to help him walk through it. I was actually able to help him get the help that he needed and his parents needed. a lot of pain once again. And so I went to writing. So my younger years, even with my poet soul, the poems are broken up into three categories: mind, body, and soul. And even with those, just going through different periods, like some highlights, but mostly lowlights. And writing is just how I cope and how I deal and how I can process to try to be a better person. Now, in my adult years, not so much pain. Pain is still an influence with my writing, but as I think about Death Before a Hookup, which is one of my recents, and even Hope for the Everyday Person, now that I'm more mature, I can write about all of my emotions and not just my pain.
Mhm. Oh, that's incredible. Um, so because you're sharing those personal experiences, so it's authentic. That's the word I'm looking for. It's authentic side of you. But does this not kind of take away from you in any way that you don't feel like, oh, I'm giving away too much, or do you have a way of holding some back?
I've never thought about that before, to be honest. I would say, when I think about my writing, previous and even now, I I don't hold back parts of myself. I'm able to give fully to the story, but I do so in a very interesting way, completely wrapped up in fiction. And some people call it a talent. I'm just very thankful I have the gift to do so. And I think because I have the ability to take whatever is going on and wrap it in fiction with compelling stories, compelling characters, that is what allows me to not hold back and give my all whenever I'm writing.
Mhm. I like that answer. It's really, really great. And kind of moving off a little bit more into that, that how do you balance, your the emotional depth in your stories, with also the desire to entertain your readers?
Oh, I would say it depends on, what's happening, what I'm writing about. If I'm writing about, we'll say, for example, a part of a story where there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of romance, there's a lot, that whole beautiful phase of falling in love, I take a step back and I reflect on my experience versus how can I connect to the readers to where, they can see the characters, they can visualize the character, they can fall in love with the characters. So it goes back to the previous question, kind of giving a little bit of myself in there as well, but wrapping in fiction. But I always try to stay connected to first my emotions and then whoever may pick up the book to read it. So I think that's how I balance it a lot of times. And again, I think about even recently with excuse me, Hope for the Everyday Person. I really did a lot of balancing act with that particular project because majority of those stories they are 100% true. Again, just wrapped in fiction. At the same time, taking that step back and looking at how can a person get past the situation if they're reading it? How can they gain that hope? What am I doing, to dig deep and get to that place of that hope? So it's a process. There's a lot of meditation, there's a lot of prayer. I actually have a writing playlist, so I'll play music. But when it gets too emotional, I typically have to close the laptop and step away and get my emotions together and then bring it back to again make that connection and make it real for whoever picks up the book.
Wow, wow, wow. That's a lot of work that goes. It's not just put pen to the paper, write it, send it off, and that's it. It's done. So, oh wow, it's great to hear that this insight from, you know, mm, well, I'll get to this bit in a bit. So let me just go on to my next question. As
Sure.
to, you've written across genres. How do you choose what you want to write about? Is it going to be love? Is it going to be, you know, life?
And I think that is what makes me unique as an author is because some people I've heard feedback of, well, you should stick to one genre. Like most people automatically assume, oh, well, you should just stick to urban fiction. I believe that puts me in a box, and I don't like to be put in a box. Again, going back to a young age, I ask the questions. I want to know why. I want to understand why. I want to think outside the box. I want other people to think outside the box. So life 100% influences what I write. And it just doesn't happen to go in a particular box of a particular genre. As you've checked out, I've written romance, I've written poetry, I've written, thriller suspense. Death Before Hookup, that's thriller suspense and crime mafia. It's just whatever is happening to me in the moment and how I'm choosing to process it in my writing. But I believe it makes me unique.
No, absolutely. I don't um not anybody else that I can think of that makes you say, oh, like that, like you do. That's why that question was important that I asked it. Thank you for the answer.
Of course.
And so you've achieved international, author and best-selling status. What does this mean to you to achieve these, you know, great awards?
I would say what it means, it's not necessarily what it means to me. Like, of course, it feels great. Um, but I would say for me, what it really means is that whoever you are, whoever you want to be, whatever is going on in your life, whatever your circumstance is, again, going back to my analogy of I don't like to be put in a box, you can achieve some of the most amazing things. And the only thing that's holding you back is you. I'll never forget when I got the letter and the plaque of Diaries of a Dead Woman being an international bestseller. I didn't think that was going to happen. Again, I wrote that book when I was 17 years old. Again, as I mentioned, the story of, my second love and helping him process what was going on in his life. That was me helping him process and helping myself process and trying to be a good girlfriend at 17, which, I think most teenage love, you never have to think about, really, you just, I think mostly teenagers just date and go about their business. But, real life was happening, for me and that person at the time. So when I got the plaque in the mail and saw how many copies it sold, in Europe and in Asia, I was like, wow, my story touched others, my story influence others. And I'm thankful for those readers, but I'm more thankful that they were able to connect. And during that time, I was able to have fan mail. This is when, people actually put letters in the mail. Unlike today, where, we have email and chat and whatnot. And I enjoyed receiving those letters about your story helped me process this in my life. This part of the story helped me process my faith. That is more important to me than the status. The status is nice and I'm thankful, but I'm more thankful that I was able to impact lives in a positive way.
Mhm. That's great. That's really, really great. And I'm going to kind of rephrase what I plan to ask in terms of these readers. So, because you got all these letters, what's one of them, or a couple of them that you think, oh wow, they actually took this away from, from the book out of everything else they could have, but I'm glad they took this away. What's one surprising letter that you got that you're like, wow, I didn't expect that one.
Wow. Oh, you have amazing questions, by the way, and I love them. Let me think for a minute. Okay, I think I can give you two quick ones. I can give you a previous one and a most recent. Previous one, it was Fatal Marriage. I received a letter from a young high school girl from Mississippi. I actually met her. I had an opportunity to do a book signing shortly after the book came out in Mississippi, and she read my book and she sent me a letter saying that the strength and power of the main character, Arista, really helped her to get out of her emotionally and physically abusive relationship. She went into details what was happening, and it was physically and mentally abusive. And just by walking through Arista's story in Fatal Marriage, she was able to get the courage, stand up, tell her parents what was happening. Her parents got her the help. She was able to get out of that relationship unscathed. So past one, that meant a lot to me to know that, I was able again to help a young girl. Recent example with Hope for the Everyday Person, my mom took um, the book to her work. She's a nurse, and one of her patients read the book, and she sent me a text message. If you don't mind, I'll my phone is right next to me. I think it's more impactful to just read exactly what she sent me that night. And this was just a few nights ago. She said, good evening, daughter. I told you that I shared my book with my resident. Well, today he told me I am an atheist, agnostic, but I have to congratulate your daughter. The way she included scripture in this book is wonderful. And I've had many people ask me if they can read it because it is so powerful and so impactful. My chest is puffed up. I thank God for you, Alicia Rice Haynes. And that was from my
Wow.
mom and feedback from one of her patients.
Wow, wow, wow. That's incredible. That's really, really incredible. People should know it. Well, there's no two ways, but you got to go and read some of these incredible books. And while we're talking about go and read them, so can people reach out to you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Absolutely. I am very much open to email. My email address is listed on my website. It's ariceauthor@outlook.com. I'm on most social medias. People can reach out through Facebook. I do have an author page called Alicia Rice Author. I also have an author Instagram, also titled Alicia Rice Author. So I want fans to reach out, ask questions, email. I'm pretty much an open book, whether it's to ask questions, get advice, whatever it is. It's my way of giving back through the gift that I believe that a higher power has granted me.
That is really, really amazing. Okay, there to definitely go and follow. And is it just Alicia Rice? And you've got everything. She's very famous. And let me go into this kind of next bit. That you kind of you give away a lot. So how do you stay grounded while navigating the literary world?
Mm. Well, first, I do believe in a higher power. My Heavenly Father is the number one thing that keeps me grounded. I am so fortunate to say that I have the love of my life. We have been together for almost 26 years. This coming May, we will be married for 24 years. I have an amazing mom. You've heard me mention my grandmother a lot. She passed away August of 2023. Um, that was difficult. That was hard, but I know that she watches over me. And she was also one of my strongest anchors. And I also have three beautiful children. And my third child, which I like to call my bonus child, has made me a grandma. So I am a grandma of two beautiful boys. So they they are what keep me grounded. They're there with me through the happy times. They're there with me through the process times. Again, now as I'm older in my writing, my daughter loves to be involved. Like she's the first one to read the book, and she's like, "Well, what about putting this in? Or have you thought about instead of having this happen to this character, have you thought about this?" And so, personally and professionally in my authorship, I have an amazing higher power and such a wonderful family that keeps me grounded and focused.
Like like that a lot. It's more about, as I say, count your blessings, right? And I love the way you summarize the and it's all about those things you have, those things you can't control. Hey, leave them, leave them till next time. Thank you
Absolutely.
so
Because
much for
either
that.
they'll come around again or it'll come around different or it doesn't come around at all. But when you focus on, instead of focusing on what you can't do or what's not going to happen, focus on, what you can do. And that's not easy. I acknowledge that. That is not easy. It takes getting to a place of that I like to say that emotional intelligence and that emotional empathy of knowing yourself and recognizing when, hey, it's too much. And then doing what you need to do, whether it's to talk to someone, go meditate, go pray, to get yourself back centered. And that's so important.
Mm, nice, nice, nice. Because I think that kind of answers my next question. I'm going to ask you anyway, just in case you have something to add to it.
Sure.
Um, and it's just that what role does your attitude play when facing challenges, especially as a writer or as a public figure? It's not quite the same as the rest of us.
Oh, that's a great question. And I'll add a little bit to what I just mentioned. My grandmother told me that soon as you're born, soon as you are born into the world, your legacy begins. The way you walk, the way you talk, how you interact with people. Your story is automatically being written. So you always want to think about how do you want to show up? When you're gone, how do you want the rest of the world to remember you? And so my entire life, that has been my lens and my formative years. I had a lot of time to think about, how I do want to show up, how I want to show up as, a young Black woman. How do I want to show up as a mom? How do I want to show up as a wife? And I authentically march in that way. And one of a big part of my authenticity is, being compassionate, but also, keeping it real as well. I'm the type of person or friend, I'm never going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, but I'm going to do so in compassion and love because words can bring life or they can bring death. So as I walk through this life, I want to give as much life as I can.
Mm, wow, that's very, very powerful. Like that a lot. Thank you. And can you share any hints about what's next on your project, or maybe an upcoming book, or what can we look forward to?
Sure. So I'm actually excited because you heard me reference Hope for the Everyday Person. That is actually the first book that I've written that is not completely under my pen name. So, relevant fun fact, my pen name is Alicia Rice. It's my maiden name. And I chose that because to honor my grandmother, because when I started writing, I was Alicia Rice. With Hope for the Everyday Person, I published that under my married name, which is Haynes, because for those that have read any of my past books, I think it's a good reflection and transparency of who I was and who I am now, and just continuing to build on what I want to bring. Hope for the Everyday Person. I just got notification it is available on Amazon. So for your listeners, if you need bouts of inspiration, you're going through something, and you need a reminder that hope still exists, I do believe that is a great book for you. Outside of that, what's coming up next? I am actually working on a wasteland dystopian type novel called Historian of the Wasteland, The Veil of Decay. And the setting is it's 4025, so well into the future. The world has ended and it's overrun with zombies, but not zombies that you typically see in video games or your typical movie. These zombies do have higher functions of intelligence, and you have this lone protagonist walking through the world trying to understand how the world got to where it is and what she can do to make an impact going forward in the future. And that is one that I'm really excited about and I hope is well received because I think we're in a state, no matter what you believe, where the world is interesting right now. And some people are asking that question, how did we get here? But again, when you get the answer to that question, don't focus on the why, focus on what you can do to impact and make it better. And Historian of the Wasteland really will bring that out. And I will say, last but not least, one of the fun things that I enjoy doing as an author is helping family and friends become published. I am working with my best friend, John Sin, to help him publish his next book called The Sentinel's Echo and Shattered Minds. So that's what's coming up for me.
Wow, that's really, really incredible. Because I was waiting, oh, what's that about that other book? But you just explained it now, and that's the Shattered Minds by John Saint.
Yes.
Okay. And yeah, there's a bit about on your page as well that says meet the authors, and it shows all different authors. So yeah, no, you're doing really, really great, not just for yourself, but carrying people along. That's really great. I like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, to me, that was important to me because when I first published Diaries of a Dead Woman, I actually published that one before I published Fatal Marriage. And I just remember being, a very young self-published author. Um, there during that time, there really wasn't a lot of support and from my lens. I had an amazing publicist at the time, and we're still very close, really good friends. He was my first supporter, along with another friend of mine. And as I continued to meet like other authors and even some of my favorite authors, I was really disappointed of asking questions, seeing, not trying to like steal work or anything, but just, I'm a young author. What are some lessons learned that you can show me, teach me? And I didn't get that. I got it from my previous publicist. His name is Cyrus Webb. Absolutely amazing. I even got that from another publicist. His name is Torian. But that was it as a young author. So I vowed, again, as a part of my legacy, as a part of how I walk in life, if another author comes to me and says, hey, I have questions. Hey, can you read my book? Hey, do you know a cover design artist? I'm not going to be the person that's going to gatekeep knowledge. I'm going to share it. And so that's why I have the meet the authors on my page. Is that you mentioned John, best friend of mine. The other person on my page, Sandy, was my also a best friend. And you probably noticed on the page she passed away during 2020 uh, due to cancer. And she always wanted to write, but thought that she couldn't do it. She let me read Faith for the Everyday Person. And I said, no, girl, you gotta get this out there. People need to read your story. They need this hope. They need this encouragement. And I walked her along the way with it. No questions asked. I didn't ask for money. I didn't ask for anything. Again, I got joy out of making a dream of hers become reality. And again, it's just a way for me to get back because I had two amazing people when I was younger, but I think it's sad that I only had two.
Mm, 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 mm. Well, keep your circle small. No, that's the best way to life. And do you feel like this could ever make it as a movie? Because I just see movies all over. Would you be open to a collaboration like that?
I would definitely be open to collaboration. My daughter and my husband all the time said, you should really try to put this in a movie. And again, I guess maybe it's the humility or I don't know what it is. I'm like, if it is within his will, if the opportunity presents itself, um, I'm open to any and all blessings. Um, Something that is very important to me is that, if it does turn into a movie adaptation, to stay true to the content and the message. As long as it doesn't go away from that, absolutely. I'm willing to work with anyone to make any of my books into a movie.
Perfect, perfect. Let's keep speaking into existence. And sure someday, pretty soon, I think, there will be that over there. And time is running. But I will just ask this kind of call them rapid fire questions.
Yes.
So you as an author, would it be pen or a keyboard?
Both.
Ooh, but if you have to choose one,
If I had to choose one, keyboard.
keyboard.
Now,
Perfect. And are you an early bird or a night owl?
night owl.
Night owl. And it's a book you wish you've written.
Oh, you stumped me. You said a book that I wish that I've
You,
written.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. You, the book that I wish that I have written, I would have to say is Epiphany 2, because the way that I ended Epiphany 1 is on a huge cliffhanger. And so that is the book that I wish that I've written. I'm still alive and breathing. I can correct it though.
perfect, perfect, perfect. Well, we'll be looking forward to it. And one word to describe your writing journey.
Hmm. Purposeful.
Great words. An amazing word. Yeah, it's been absolutely incredible. Is there any final comments from you to the viewers?
Whew. Well, first to you, thank you for your time and this wonderful opportunity to get to know you and to get to know your listeners. Um, Final thoughts, I definitely would say do not let anyone limit your capability. As long as you're breathing, the opportunities are endless. Just walk in purpose and be purposeful.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. I'd like to say thank you so, so, so much for such an engaging, knowledgeable, just knowledge filled. It's an amazing interview, if I do say so myself. Uh, thank you so much for blessing us with your presence. Till we
And
meet again.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
From Cape to Cairo, Madagascar to Morocco, you're traveling on the airwaves of Power 8 Radio.